Warning: this story is real, and all its characters and events are real. Welcome back to the Horror Stories series. Today's story is from the Republic of Sudan, sent to us by one of the channel's subscribers. The story's owner begins his story by saying, "My name is Moatasem. My 3 brothers and I were born in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have a traditional house located in the Dongola Governorate in northern Sudan. My family used to spend the summer vacation every year in this house. The house consisted of a ground floor surrounded by a large courtyard, which contained an abandoned barn inside, which we later used as a storehouse for some unused things. In 1997, after the end of the school year, we traveled to Sudan to spend that year's vacation. When we arrived home, we immediately cleaned the house. The sun was setting, and the area where the house is located is semi-agricultural. The electricity was cut off constantly, so we used to keep a large quantity of candles. At sunset, my father asked me to go to the grocery store to buy some candles and some other supplies. Before I left the house, I saw a gray dog entering the storeroom. I immediately went to get him out of the house. When I arrived, he immediately responded to my command and headed out of the house on his own. While I was going to the grocery store, I felt a movement coming from behind me. When I turned around, I found the dog following me. I did not pay attention to the matter. Then I continued walking until I reached the grocery store. While I was returning home, it was getting dark. The dog was still following me. But this time the dog started walking beside me. The strange thing was that the dog had changed color to black. He did not stick out his tongue or pant at all, like other dogs. The terrifying thing was that this dog was walking while looking at me only. Meanwhile, I started to feel very scared. My heart was beating fast. When I was halfway there, the dog started walking in front of me, but he was walking backwards, and his face was facing me. Meanwhile, I couldn't control myself from the intensity of my fear. I ran quickly towards the house, and every time I looked back, I saw the dog still walking in the same way. Finally, I arrived home. I knocked on the door with all my strength. Then I heard my brother's voice saying, "Who's knocking?" At that moment, the dog passed in front of the house, and his passing coincided with my brother opening the door. I immediately said to my brother, "Look at this dog. How is he walking backwards without looking in front of him?" My brother was surprised by my words and said to me, "What's wrong with him? The dog is walking normally." I was still seeing the dog walking backwards, but my brother saw him walking normally. Finally, the dog moved away and disappeared into the darkness. Then my brother and I entered the house, and I closed the door behind me tightly. It was our custom in Sudan for men to sleep in the courtyard of the house. Indeed, each of us pulled out his bed, and we started talking, by candlelight, until the evening call to prayer came. After performing the prayer and eating dinner, everyone got ready for bed. The women were inside and the men were in the courtyard outside. My bed was opposite the door of the house in the middle of the night, and everyone was asleep. I felt something licking my feet. I got up in a panic to see the dog walking towards the door of the house. Then he came out of it while it was locked. I could not believe what I saw. How could this happen? Heading towards the door and then exiting it. After this terrifying scene, I screamed at the top of my voice out of fear. Everyone woke up to my cry for help. I was saying incomprehensible words. Dogs. There are dogs. The storeroom. Goblins and ghosts. Everyone thought that I had a nightmare while I was sleeping. My father sat next to me, recited some verses from the Quran, and asked me to calm down. There was nothing there. It was just a nightmare. I sought refuge from Satan, then went back to sleep again. Everyone woke up to the sound of the dawn call to prayer. After the dawn prayer, we had breakfast. My father assigned each one of us to do something. My task was to sort the things in the storeroom. When I entered the storeroom, I smelled a bad smell. It was like the smell of cat and dog feces. The warehouse had no lighting. I was relying on sunlight only. While checking the source of the smell, my foot stepped on something strange. I took off my shoes to find that what my feet had stepped on was feces. I went to wash my shoes and bring some cleaning supplies. I was holding my shoes with my hand. Then my brother saw me. He said to me, "Why are you holding your shoes like this?" I told him that there was dog feces on them, and I wanted to clean them. My brother was surprised by my words, and he said to me, "What feces is this? Your shoes are completely clean." When I looked at the shoes, I did not find any trace of those feces. How did they disappear? I could not speak. My tongue was tied at that moment. I was sure that what I had stepped on in the warehouse was feces. I grabbed my brother by the hand and asked him to come with me to see the waste for himself. When we entered the storeroom, the smell was very normal, and there was no trace of any waste. At that moment, I broke down crying, and my brother went to tell my father what happened to me. A few seconds before my father arrived, I saw a very large group of dogs entering the storeroom. Here I fainted, and then I woke up to the sound of my father reciting the Quran and holding my head in his hand. At that moment, I regained full consciousness, but I had a severe headache. When I calmed down, my father asked me not to come near that storeroom. He asked me to maintain the morning and evening supplications daily and not to forget to recite Ayat al-Kursi after every prayer. My father continued to recite Ruqya over me for 7 consecutive days. Praise be to Allah, nothing bad happened to me after that day. After this incident, my father emptied the storeroom completely. He would play Surah al-Baqarah every day and burn incense, especially oud. Then he finally designated this storeroom as a guest room. Before we traveled to Saudi Arabia, my father tightly closed the windows and sprinkled water in the corners of the storeroom, over which he had recited some verses from the Quran. Praise be to Allah, nothing bad has happened to me to this day. Today I am telling you this story, after more than 20 years have passed. This was the end of my story. Your brother, Moatasem.